Does the channel provide value?
Focus on the foundation.
I am a travel vlogger.
It's always about communication.
Build those partnerships.
What are the problems that you solve for your clients?
Just being ahead on the technological side of things.
Leading an organization.
You not only want to survive, but you want to thrive. They said it wouldn't last, and they said that you can't drive profitable and incremental revenue through the affiliate channel. But here we are, 20 years later, and the affiliate channel is alive and kicking and generating profitable revenue for thousands of retailers across the globe. Hi, I am Jamie Birch, your host of the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast, where we talk to some of the industry's best and brightest about their careers, about leadership, and about how to drive profitable revenue through the affiliate channel. Hello and welcome to the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast. I am your host, Jamie Birch, CEO and founder of your award-winning affiliate marketing agency, JEB Commerce. Today, I have a special guest. Well, they're all special. I know I say that a lot, but Tony Pantano and I go way back. Tony is the CEO of IMWave, a search agency working through the affiliate channel. So before I introduce the episode, I do want to talk to you about one resource we have available. So it is the Affiliate Program Strategy Roadmap. If you would like to find out how we leverage our decades of experience to create a strategy for growth, then you should check out that service here. We can help you identify exactly what you need to be doing with your affiliate program to ensure that it is set up for success in these crazy times. What will 2021 look like? Well, this strategy will help you pivot and adapt and be flexible through that. So you can go to jebco.de/strategy. That's jebco.de/strategy. I will include that link in the show notes as well. So today, Tony and I talk about all things search. Now, if you are interested, with all my podcasts, if you're a regular listener, you know that we kind of talk about whatever comes up in the beginning. And today, with Tony, we talk about being on the school board and what that has been like in the age of COVID. So if you ever want to get a perspective that you probably don't get, I would encourage you to listen to that. If you want to jump ahead right to the affiliate marketing stuff, then probably around minute 18 to 20 is when we transition into affiliate marketing. But today, Tony gives 3 examples of successes that his firm has produced and how they work together. And he also highlights how they are different from Trademark Plus. So if you listening to this episode thinking we're going to talk about Trademark Plus, we do, but that is not what Tony and his team at IMWave do. So I'm going to get out of the way. Enjoy the episode. All right, Tony Pantano, thank you and welcome to the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast.
Mr. Birch, it's a pleasure. You and I go way back, and when you asked me to join the podcast, I was honored, thrilled, and excited. So it's good to catch up with you and be a participant.
Yeah, it's weird not to see each other 5 or 6 times every year, and it's been over a year. And what a crazy freaking year. You were on the top, my first 25 that I wanted to get on. So glad we can get everything scheduled. How have you been, man? It's been a crazy year. What's it been like for you?
It's hard to even recap what the last 12 months has brought us.
Amen.
It's March seems like 100 years ago at this point. When things sort of shut down. I missed Affiliate Summit West in the beginning of 2020 for some other issues, and thinking, I'll catch up with everybody later in the year at Affiliate Summit East or CJU or Think Tank or one of the multiple events that I usually try and get to. And little did I know that I'd be sitting here 12 months later and not have gone anywhere. So business has been odd. Some programs are doing well, and some programs really took a hit. So it's crazy with no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, and you have probably the most unique perspective of anyone we've had on the podcast yet, because you are on the school board. Is that correct? Is that what you guys call it over there?
Yes, and I'm located. So we're based out of Virginia, but I work out of Pennsylvania. And in Pennsylvania, each school district has a board of elected officials. So I had to actually get on the ballot and campaign and be elected to this position. And I'm in my fourth year on the school board here, our local school board, which
Wow.
crazy, crazy year three that we've had. It is a unique perspective, and I think a lot of people don't have.
So what prompted you to run and to kind of throw yourself into even on normal years from people I've heard on school boards? It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's really a thankless job, and there are very few people. And in my geography, there are very few people that are even interested in participating. We've had some openings, and I've reached out and tried to recruit some people, and I've gotten. I'm 100% unsuccessful at recruiting new people,
Wow.
but um, I have two kids that are in high school, and I've lived in this district for 20 almost 25 years. And if you think about it, where we go, school taxes are probably one of the top bills that you pay. And I thought that my perspective and my view on certain things might be a benefit to the district. And some people that I know that were on the board called me and said, "Hey, what do you think?" And I said, "I'll give it a shot." And I won, and that's kind of where how it ended up.
What was the campaigning like? Was it I imagine. I think when I hear campaigning, I participated in a city council campaign in Seattle, and that was intense. What was yours like?
It was the opposite. It was the antithesis of intense. Uh, I I bought I bought 50 campaign signs and drove around and put them up. And I recruited some people to stand at the polls and hand out cards with my picture on them. And that was about the extent of it. And I grew up around here. My family's around here. So there's some name recognition.
Hmm.
I reached out to people that I know on the township commissioners boards and some other boards, and kind of said, hey, can you talk me up a little bit? And that's really the extent of what we had to do. There weren't. I hate to say this, but it was really I was really on a. There was two of us running for two seats. So
Mm,
again, nobody's interested in these positions, and this is where
yeah.
all the decisions really that affect us happen. By evidence this year with everything going
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Yeah, and so did you figure out what the person did differently that called you and was successful in recruiting you that you haven't done with your phone calls?
No, maybe she just found the right person. I don't know. Caught me in a moment of weakness. I decided a long time. I was approached. I've been approached many times for many boards throughout my career, and it's hard to pick and choose which ones you're going to participate in. And I decided probably about 20 years ago, anything that had to do with children, I would participate in. Um,
Mm,
and that's kind of been my benchmark. So I've served on the county library board. I've served on yeah, it's called the Children's Home. It's started as an orphanage, and it's for troubled children in the area. Health Education Center board. So anything children related. This seemed a natural fit um, with the school board.
awesome. Well, it doesn't surprise me. The man that I know would be involved in those things. So what, like I said earlier, from what I've heard, it's, and what you said, it's always a thankless job, but the last 12 months have been just insane. What what has that been like from your perspective, dealing with COVID and parents and kids and all of that?
I, it's just like it's a microcosm of our whole world right now. The opinions are vast and diverse, and there's very little movement either way. Our superintendent is pretty forward thinking, and at the beginning of the school year, he came out with a three option 3-option plan that gave the power to the parents to decide. He decided that we're going to open in person if you choose. And if you select that, this is what it will mean in terms of mitigation efforts. And then we chose a virtual option where your children could work from home and Zoom in. And this is what that would mean. And parents were allowed to choose, and parents were allowed to switch at the semester breaks. And he put that out there. And I have to be honest with you. There were those people that thought we were crazy, and there are those people that were really adamantly opposed to getting back in person. But the school's done a fantastic job with mitigation efforts. There's been very little community spread that's associated with the kids that are in school. And we've actually been in person since September.
Oh, wow.
So we went back right away. We had we had 2 building closures, a 14-day closure, which was part of the plan. If there were X number of cases, we would close for 14 days and clean. So we had 1 closure out of however many months we've been open, which is fantastic. They done a great job, and it's great for the kids. The kids need to. All of the data, all of the science, all of the research shows that kids need face-to-face, and that it's really probably one of the safest places for them to be. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with that, but that's really what a lot of the data is showing. And I think even now you can see the administration and the CDC are pushing to how do we get kids back in school.
Yeah, it seems that's definitely the take there. What they're pushing now. What was the most difficult part of that? It doesn't sound like, did you guys have to make a decision? Our kids are homeschooled, so we don't have much interaction with the school system and the school board here in Idaho. So I don't really know how it works, but I do remember lots of protests against our school board here. Lots of very heated school board meetings, even where they were closed. And then people had to be escorted out, like some pretty crazy stuff. So far, it doesn't sound like all that crazy for your experience, but or we just not hit that yet?
No, we didn't hit that yet. I'm painting a very rosy picture for you because I want your listeners to think that it's all fun and games. We had our 3-option plan, and at the 11th hour, there was a push to pull the plug and go 100% virtual. And I don't know how much in depth you want me to get here, Jamie. The reality is, our meetings were virtual, so we didn't have to throw anybody out. But
Gotcha.
It was an 11th hour decision. It was put on the agenda. The public was given 24 hours notice that this was going to happen. And I didn't think that was right. As an elected official, I'm very big on transparency. And if that was the way the vote was going to go, to switch to virtual, then that's fine. That's democracy in action. But parents should know, and they should have a voice, and they should be able to show up. And so a few of us on the board pushed out this information and said, hey, this is what's happening. If you have an opinion. And in 12 hours, we received somewhere between 500 and 700 comments from parents. At the board meeting, our Zoom capability is limited to 100. That filled up in the first 2 minutes that it was posted.
Wow.
So they had to start streaming the school board meeting on YouTube Live to accommodate the rest. We had 100 people via Zoom. We had 2,500 people streaming in live on YouTube during the meeting. The meeting began at 7 p.m. and I got home at 1:38 a.m.
Wow.
So it was a 6-hour and 38-minute meeting, if my math is correct. It was very heated, very passionate. There's 9 of us on the board, and we went back and forth. And some of the social media comments were, yay for this guy, and this guy's a crank. And I received both of those. And at the end of the day, the motion to go virtual was not going to pass. And in order to save a little face for the superintendent, the the motion to go virtual was tabled. That left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. They felt like we punted, but in reality, I'm the one that made the motion to table it. I figured it allowed him to save face. There was no sense to him to have a losing vote. With a tabled motion, we simply reverted back to the 3-option plan.
Hmm.
So that's after 6 hours and 38 minutes. A lot of people said you could at least have taken a vote. And I said, well, sometimes when you're ahead, you don't need to score that last touchdown.
Yeah. And so, in our area, they were protesting any school closures whatsoever. It sounds like in your area, there was a lot of support for the 3-option and letting parents control what they wanted to do. And going virtual, they were against as well.
Yeah, well, it was hard to understand what people were really for and what they were against. Many of the people that voiced concern for going back to school in person, excuse me, had already selected for their children to be virtual. And I had a little bit of a problem with that because you selected virtual. No one's giving you a hard time. That's what you've selected. That's what's right for your family, pre-existing conditions, whatever the case may be. I thought it was inappropriate for those people to then come and suggest that the rest of the folks that selected option one shouldn't have that option. It should be taken away
Hmm.
from them. And really the fear was in person. Nobody wanted in person. I'm sorry. A lot of people didn't want in person, but overwhelmingly, 67 to 68% of our parents wanted some form of in-person education. And again, I go back to this as an elected official. I represent the people. It's not my opinion. It's not my will. I'm representing the people that put me there. If better than 2 out of 3 of the people that elected me wants a choice, and that's what they were saying, I just
Hmm.
want the choice to go in person, then that's the position I had to take. And so um, it's really odd that 23% of the people who didn't want to go in person were fighting to have the other 2/3 have their option taken away.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that over here as well. And I think the biggest thing for us as we're watching is not everyone was as privileged as we were to be able to only have one person working, one person at home, and schooling like the without having an option for the kids to go to school. When we had single parents that we know of just going, what the heck am I supposed to do? I have to work, but I have 2 kids that can't be home alone. And that created a huge issue too. And I totally understand that. We went into our own little lockdown, and we're one of the weird ones in Idaho to do that. But the reality of, people got to work, and they
You're
can
right.
do that when their kids are in school, and I assume you saw a lot of that too.
Well, that was one of the that was it was not the major driver, but it was a big driver. We're a very blue collar area. We have a lot of 2 families income
Hmm.
households where they both work. This was at a time, look, August, September, where all of the major lockdowns are over. People are back to work. The extra $600 unemployment had gone away at that point, and so these folks, they had to work to put food on the table. And if you had an elementary school student, they couldn't stay home by themselves. You couldn't assist, and it put people in a really tough spot. Um, but I don't want people listening to this to think that it was all about having a free daycare for the kids. An elementary school student really is going to learn much better sitting in a chair in front of a teacher than in front of a computer on Zoom. So there were a million factors to weigh, including the health and safety of all the kids as well. And we just felt like we could mitigate the risk. And like I said at the top of the session, we've had some buildings that have had no cases.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so they've done a really great job, and they've been very successful.
Was it one of the things that I've always said here is, look, I'm just following the science. I follow the CDC, Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins. I'm just following what they say. Were there other resources you guys use to help make these decisions? Because there's so much. Uh, you can find information everywhere, and it can be very politicized and very hard to kind of understand what is real and what's not. Was there something you guys leaned on?
That's a really great question. It's tough. I can't answer that because the biggest problem over the last 12 months is the contradicting information that you receive.
Yeah.
It's very easy to say follow the science, but people in positions of power that I have seen are picking and choosing which pieces of science to lean on, and I'm not faulting them. Some of the CDC guidelines, as far as social distancing and mask wearing, people are holding up and saying, this is what we have to do. And I'm not opposed to that. I don't want anyone to think I'm opposed to that. What I'm simply saying is the CDC said social distance and mask wearing. At the same time, the CDC also said kids should be back in school. Spreading isn't happening in school. They learn better in school. They can focus better. But you had people that would say, the CDC says I have to wear a mask. And then you'd say, well, the CDC also says you should go to school. And they said, yeah, but this guy says I shouldn't be in school. So, we did try and stick to the CDC guidelines. We did try and stick to the state guidelines, the state of Pennsylvania and the Secretary of Health and what the CDC was saying. And that's kind of where we stuck with. We're a quasi-government agency, so we're kind of restricted and forced to do some of that, but that's what we did.
Now, you've led organizations of all types. Were there certain leadership principles you took to this role at this time that you felt were, particularly useful in leading the district and also interacting with parents during, I think this is the most politically divided I've ever experienced anything, and a pandemic, and divided on how we should do that. Is there any sort of principles you leaned on during that time?
Leadership's a funny thing. You can know how to lead it fundamentally and theoretically. When it comes to action, putting those into practice always takes extra work to make sure that you're following your own guiding principles. And that goes the same for IMWave in an affiliate. From a standpoint of leadership principles going into this, it was a lot about listening and hearing what people's concerns were. The problem that we ran into is, as you said, it's very politicized and it's very emotional for people, both sides. And when emotions run deep, logic tends to slip away sometimes. And people are just making decisions from their heart. And it's just trying to listen and to hear what people's concerns were and to try and address all sides at the same time, standing firm to what you think is best for the kids. I mean, our school district's 6,400 students. So yeah, I have 2 high school kids and I'm first and foremost worried about my 2 kids. But at the end of the day, I have the responsibility of all 6,400 kids in our school district. And I have to do what I think is right and at the same time represent the people. And that's a tough tightrope to walk.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Well, I thank you for walking that I am not in your district, but I am from Pennsylvania, and I appreciate you stepping out. It's a hard thing to do. I've served not on anything like that, but different organizations, and they all seem to be thankless jobs when you do that.
No pay, that's for sure. And I have we probably talked about this longer than we should have, and people are going to like, hey, I thought this was an affiliate podcast, but I have to decide in the next 4 weeks if I'm going to run again. So,
oh wow,
I'm already up, and I already have to decide and file paperwork and get signatures. So, it's TBD.
And that's one thing to think of. It's just another sort of impact of this pandemic is that if these jobs are hard without what we've experienced the last year. So how many good leaders and volunteers do we lose because it was so difficult, so polarizing, and people can be awful to other people and to school board members, all of that. So it'll be interesting to see how many of how many good volunteers and leaders we lose in positions like that because of. I mean, I'm sure you're wiped out from this.
It'll be interesting. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Well, let's dive right into affiliate marketing. Tell me how you found your way to IMWave.
Well, boy, that's another story and a half. You know Adeam Viener, who works with me at IMWave here, and
Yep. Yep. We
Adam
go
and
way back too.
yeah, Adam and I actually first worked together in 1994, showing my age, and
Holy cow.
we had an ISP in York, Pennsylvania. It was the first commercial ISP in York, and it was me and Adam and his wife, and three of us, youngsters trying to run this business. And so we were friends and business partners back in the early 90s. After a few years, I think 4 years or so, we sold that business, and we kind of went our separate ways, but remained friends. And I got a call from him in mid 2006, and he said, "I'm looking at this affiliate marketing thing." And I said, "Okay." He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "You know what I'm doing." I said, "What's the real question?" Because he knew where I was working.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I think we could put something together here." So I got on a plane and I flew to Affiliate Summit East in Miami.
Oh man, that was so hot.
Remember that? It was Miami in
I walked
July.
out of my cab. Oh man, I walked out of my cab and my glasses fogged.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are we doing?
So I flew down there. I was still working. I took vacation time from my job. I flew down there with him. I met a bunch of people. Um, probably when I met you, to be honest with you, when you were still with Conversion.
Yep.
And I flew home and I said, okay. And I walked in and I resigned from my job and jumped over to IMWave with Adam. And the rest, as they say, has sort of been history.
Wow. So we've had people on this podcast that have gone back to affiliate marketing in like 99. I don't know if I've had anyone that goes back to the internet to 94. That's quite the career, man.
Well,
literally the beginning of it.
We were a dial-up ISP.
Half the people that will listen to this won't know what that means.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, you watch some of those old timies and you hear the modem sounds and you're thinking, but all of our customers, our software landed all of our customers on our homepage for the ISP. And on the homepage, we had an Amazon affiliate link. We had some buy at, not buy at. What was the predecessor? Just Be Free. We had some Be Free links. So we had a bunch of affiliate marketing links on that website in the late 90s. And then
that's crazy.
Yeah, and then transitioned over from there. I was actually in print media for a while, monetizing their websites. And so it was still in the internet and still monetizing web traffic, but in print media. And there's a group that really missed the boat. So I it was an easy decision.
Just kind of now getting it. They're kind of getting back into it now. A lot of big media publishers. But you've been at IMWave for almost going on 15 years. What has kept you in the affiliate space?
Well, it's constantly it as much as it stays the same, it changes. And I think back to when we started and how things were and how they are today. I like challenges, whether it's personal or work or side projects. I like to look at I find a solution to a problem, which I guess maybe makes me why I'm good on some of these boards. But and some of the challenges that we're presented with and the way we used to do things in 2006, I look back and I'm like, how did we ever achieve anything doing it that way? We've progressed so far. And, it didn't hurt that Adam and I had our friendship that went back. Actually, Adam and I became friends in 93. We were friends we met over beer and hot wings, to be honest with you, and before we became partners in '94. So, Adam and I, we're going on a what is that, like almost a 30-year friendship. Uh,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
our
Wow.
at our age, that's a long time to know
Yeah.
somebody. So we get along, and we built a pretty good team here, and it has its days when it's a drag and you're like, why am I still doing this? But for the most part, it's pretty fun, and I get to see a lot of people, and I get to meet a lot of people, and there's a lot to be said for that.
And solve a lot of challenges.
Solve a lot of problems.
So, for our listeners, tell us who IMWave is.
The easiest way to think of IMWave is to think of us as a search agency that operates via the affiliate channel. And what I say by that is, we're a supplemental agency. We don't look to replace anyone's search efforts. We don't look to replace what they're doing internally or via their search agency. We look to supplement what they're doing. We just don't do it on a percentage of ad spend. We do it 100% on performance, and that's why we do it through the affiliate. That's part of the reason we do it through the affiliate channel. The second part of the reason we do it through the affiliate channel is that it eliminates the barriers to entry to work with us. If you already have a CJ program or a link share program or an AWin program or a link connector program, you can already work with us. There's no separate technological integration. There's no separate pixel. There's no tracking that has to be put into place. And so it makes it the barrier to entry sort of vanishes and opens the door. And then we just look for ways that we can supplement search. People use search engines so differently today than they ever have in the past, and it changes all the time. And the keyword universe for some of these programs and some of these products is so vast that there's always open territory. And that's what we try and go after.
And the search landscape is changing so much. We used to have, back in the day, 15 search engines, and they all each one had its own target. Recently, we had a prospective client come to us, and it was a young man, great company, and he was given a new role. Affiliate was something he wanted to add to, and he thought, well, I don't really know much about it. I need to go learn. And his first search was in Spotify, not in Google, not anywhere else. His first thought was, I'm going to go search in Spotify. He listened to one of our podcasts, and then we started talking. So it's a evolving thing, and that blew my mind. I had no idea anyone would use Spotify as a search engine.
I've just made a note of that because we're going to have to clearly look at that as in our R&D for this year. But you're exactly
my
right.
Mind. Yeah, it's always changing. Everyone, for a while, well, who could supplant Google? Well, that stuff is happening. So good. So you guys work cooperatively. What are some of the major misconceptions that advertisers have with working with you guys?
The unfortunate thing about search is it's gotten a bad rap over the years, and that may be warranted. I mean, it's very easy for people to jump into this space. It's very easy for people to do sketchy and shady things, and frankly, just some people have gotten to the point where they're nervous about it because they've seen some bad actors, and so that's a hard thing for us to overcome. I mean, we've been in this business for over 15 years. We take it very seriously. It's hard to counteract that when you don't have a relationship. The other piece that is difficult for us is there are times when people think, well, if I get IMWave and they do search and they generate sales, then my search guy, it's going to look like my search team isn't doing a good job. And so search teams are resistant to that for that reason. Agencies are resistant to having us in for that reason. What they don't understand is that the search landscape is enormous, and that just because another party can come in and find sales doesn't mean you're not doing a great job. You are doing a great job. You have a finite limit on bandwidth, and that bandwidth could be personnel, it could be technology, it could be budget.
Yeah.
And so when you have those limitations on those things, then you need to look at ways to supplement. And the business managers, the CFOs, they need to look at ways to supplement that business, because you're just leaving money on the table in place of fear of what could happen. So that's a really big thing. The other, and so that's yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we've always battled is that, well, we have a search agency, so we don't need this. But then we walk through, well, let's go through, let's meet with your search team, or we have a search team, either an agency or a search team, and budgets run out sometimes at 8 o'clock at night or on Friday, and they
Yep.
don't have budget for the week or for the month. And there are search terms that particular agency or the search team weren't able to make profitable, that a firm like yours and like IMWave can make those profitable, and you miss those sales. So that's a typical argument we see. I assume you're seeing the same thing.
Well, we see a lot of arguments. Some are simply no, we can't allow that. It'll cannibalize our search, and then that's the end of the discussion. The ones where we can have the search team on and explain to them exactly what we're looking at doing, it sort of opens their eyes a little bit. But you're exactly right. I had a partner. I won't say who. I probably shouldn't say who, but I'm going to give you an example here. They had a limited budget for search. And as we got to talking, we were discussing back and forth. And I asked them, I said, well, what is your search budget for the month? Their search budget for the month was $2,000. This was a fairly large brand. And when we did an analysis on their search, you hit the nail on the head. Around the 10th of the month, their search was at budget for the month. They were done. And two competitors were taking over position 1 and 2 on all of their terms for the next 20 days. Then at the beginning of the next month, when they would try to turn their search back on, they would struggle to regain position because they had been off. And so what we were able to do is work collaboratively with them. When their budget ran out, our budget turned on. We ran for the balance of the month. On the 30th, we shut everything off, and they picked up again. And so you could see these plateaus and then these dips to zero. But what was happening was they were paying a CPA, so it was coming out of a different bucket. It wasn't coming out of search spend, and they were gaining all these residual sales that they would normally have missed out on. And as their budget did slowly increase, the day at which we turned the campaign on also changed, which is fine. We're in partnership. So if they had enough budget for the 20th, then we would only run 10 days. So it's very interesting what can be accomplished.
And that was what I wanted to talk about. Now, you and I have worked this way, but for our listeners and any advertisers listening, I think one of the misconceptions is when we bring up IMWave or any search campaign through the affiliates, they immediately, their impression of what an affiliate is and how they work is clouding this particular proposal. So in their mind, they think of, there's still a concept or a thought of affiliates as bottom feeders, and they're coming in right at the end to grab that sale and providing no little value. And the back and forth between advertiser and publisher isn't strong. The working relationship is one of, I've made these links available and these people are using them, but I really don't know what they're doing. But it definitely sounds like, and in my experience with you, that's not how you work. You talked about you perform an analysis on search. Talk to me about the relationship between you and advertiser through the affiliate channel, so that our listeners can see like this isn't a sort of a set it and forget it on the advertiser side and hope things work out kind of relationship?
Well, boy, Jamie, I wish that was really the way it worked. I have many partners who do put us on set it and forget it. Um, I have many partners that they sign up with us and that's the last we hear from them. And that's okay, but our best partnerships are ones where we can work collaboratively with our partners and where they can tell us what are their goals. I mean, obviously to sell more, but specifically, are they
Yeah.
looking for a 15% growth over last quarter? Are they looking to break into a new geography? Are they looking to break into new product categories? What are they trying to accomplish, and where are their efforts focused? The more I know about where they're focused, the more I can focus elsewhere. And that's what we really want. I don't want to be focused on where their search is focused. I want to be focused where they don't have search. And so I don't I don't typically run in I run it I more often than not I run into the we don't like search partners over we just generally don't like affiliates. Now, having said that,
Hmm.
there is a huge component here that I don't want to miss out on. If you're going to ask me later, we can come back to it. But agencies played a pretty big role for us in introducing us to clients, and those introductions make make all the difference because we're not coming in cold a lot of times um, with those kinds of things. So I would say no. I don't run into the we don't like affiliates, and I mean some programs have that, but it's more often than not trying to overcome the search question.
And is that question the cannibalizing their current search program, or how would we work with you and our search agency? What is their objection?
Well, it's either we have it all covered, we have the whole search landscape covered already, we don't need it, which we know is not correct, and they know it's not correct, but that's the reasoning. Or they are worried about paying for sales that they quote unquote would have gotten anyway. Um, and so it's that scenario where they think all of the all of their efforts are getting 100% of the possible sales, which
Yeah.
you just know isn't really realistic. They're just not doing that, and it's you have to overcome that, and you have to get past that. If you generate $10,000 worth of sales, someone's going to say, why wouldn't you're in search, why weren't you getting that $10,000 in sales?
Yeah, and how is it to work with other search agencies? Have you had a general apprehension on their side, or have they been open to help you augment what they're not able to do?
Great question. The question is, it depends. If you have a search agency who sort of rules the roost and runs the show, and the management of the advertiser just takes for whatever they say and says, well, that's what our agency says, then yes, we have had tremendous apprehension. And I think they feel like we're trying to take over their business, which we are not.
Mhm.
And sometimes we can explain that, and sometimes we can't. When the merchant or the advertiser really runs their own business and looks at the search agency as what they are, which is a third party vendor who should operate in the scope of what the advertiser tells them to operate in, they seem to be much more receptive to allowing it. They don't show their hand as being very much adamant or really opposed to it, especially if we can have a conversation, all three of us together, and discuss it and get through it.
And that's probably something a lot of advertisers don't know. Like you will get on a meeting with their search team, whether that's in house or through an agency, and find a way for this to work for everybody.
Right. And we have done that. We do that. We offer that. And when we've had those opportunities, more often than not, they do work out. And sometimes we don't need that because sometimes the advertisers just say, well, it's our program and this is how we're going to do it. But we are, like I said many times over again, repeating myself, we're about collaboration, not competition with your current search efforts. And we could come in there and try and sneak 12 hours worth of commissions out of your program and take them out from one pocket to the other. But we're not going to have a long-term relationship that way. And we wouldn't be around for 15 years if that's what we were trying to do. So it's really important for us to make sure that what we're bringing in is incremental.
And that's great to hear. Now, do you, in the past, I've worked with some search partners, and my career started in 99. And we've had separate agreements. Do you guys, after you meet with the advertiser, do you write addendums to the affiliate agreement? Do you just sort of agree? You talk about, we're going to find where your search efforts are over here. We're going to come over in this other area and operate this way. So I assume each relationship has its own do's and don'ts and agreements. Do you write that into a new agreement? How does that work? Because I know advertisers are always worried about, yeah, well, that's what they say they're going to do, but I'm not up at midnight and checking these things. So do you write separate agreements?
We have in the past. We try not to. We try to keep it as straightforward and as simplified as possible. In some of the networks, you can have a publisher specific term or IO, in which case we just have them write
Mhm.
one that specifies what we've discussed. In other times, we'll just get it in writing via email. We sign many NDAs, non-disclosures
Yep.
before they'll talk about their business with us, which is fine. We're not sharing business across platforms or across verticals. So there's that. But we try not to get involved with creating legal documents or agreements if we don't have to. Um, it other than the base parameters for a program, it's very fluid in what we do. Different keyword sets, different geographies, different day parts. I mean, sticking with the finite terms of the deal, but the rest of it's pretty fluid. And so we found that it's easier not to do that, to have these separate hardwired agreements that have to be updated from time to time.
Gotcha. And so what sort of reporting do you provide reporting to your advertising partner, or it just goes through the affiliate network? Is there additional, things that you do?
Now, there's not really any additional reporting that we offer, specifically because they're not paying the ad spend. Um,
Yeah.
So through the affiliate network, whatever network they're in, they can see every click, they can see every conversion, they can see if our cookie was overwritten by a coupon or a toolbar site. So they have most of that reporting available to them. Then anything that I would be able to provide, they have visibility into much of it already. And again, that just simplifies things because they can manage us like they do across any other affiliate and see what we're bringing in.
Gotcha. One more sort of in the weeds technical question that some have had is, do you operate within their paid search account or your own?
We operate within our own. The accounts are ours. The keywords are ours and our intellectual property. The benefit of IMWave is that we find keywords that convert that maybe some other people hadn't found in the past. And so, we don't share them, and that some people don't like that, and that's created problems. But, once I share my keywords, they become your keywords at that point, and you don't need me. And the the benefit, and it's not malicious, it's just people are always looking for new keywords. So um, we operate in our own account with Google, and we manage it that way.
Gotcha. Well, it makes sense to me. You're taking the risk. You're paying the ad spend, and they get the result without having to pay until it turns into a sale. So definitely want to protect your stuff. So tell me, what advertiser is this really good for? What advertiser doesn't this fit for?
Well, I'm going to be very candid with you, Jamie. If I knew the answer to that, I'd probably go to Vegas and start placing some bets, because the one thing I can guarantee you in 15 years is I don't know how to pick a winner in this business. And I say that sort of tongue in cheek, but the reality is there are programs that I thought should have blown the doors off that just
Yeah.
tanked hard. And simultaneously, there were programs that I ran as a favor. I mean, some of the people I know in this and still communicate with in this industry, I've known like you since 2007, 2008, 2009. Some of my agency friends, and they'll bring me one and say, "Hey, can you do me a favor and run this?" I'm like, okay. And it's just taken off. And I had
Yeah.
no idea. And so it's it's a tough thing to gauge. And so what I can tell you is over the years, we have found success across a vast array of verticals. We have also discovered that just because just take telecommunications for instance, and I'm just saying this as an example. Just because you were in the T-Mobile program and it was working well doesn't mean that the AT&T program is going to work equally well for you. And
Yeah.
the reason being is that it's, in search, I need to find the traffic and I need to deliver the traffic. But once I deliver the traffic, it's up to the site, it's up to the partner, it's up to the advertiser to convert. If they don't have a compelling offer, or they don't have a compelling landing page, or they have a complicated funnel, lead funnel process, I can send a ton of traffic that won't convert. And so it what we say to everybody is, let's run a test. It's all about testing. Let us test the program, give us 60 days, we'll run it, we'll get some real metrics, we'll get some real CPC information, and we'll be able to tell you a lot of things after that period of time. There's nothing worse than a program where I'm generating sales for them and the advertiser is super happy and I have to turn it off because it costs me more to bring in those sales than I made in commission, and I'm actually losing money. Then they're like, well,
Yeah.
I want these sales. I'm like, I know you want them, but I can't afford to pay for you to have them. And so
Right. You
that's a
can't lose money doing
I
it.
can't lose money doing it. And then, that opens the door to conversations about commission. And sometimes, you can get a point or two and you can turn it around, and sometimes you can't. But it's a very unique, what's going to work and what's not going to work is very unique. And I wish I had a magic 8 ball or a crystal ball to be able to tell you, and I just do not.
Yeah. So are there things the advertiser can do for this relationship to be more inclined to be successful than not?
Well, I think the ones that have really focused on their conversion pages, their funnel. I think the ones that focus on compelling offers in general are the ones that have a better shot at working. I there are certain verticals where people come at me all day long and they want us to market. We get a ton of CBD offers coming in.
Yeah.
Hey, can you do this? Hey, and I understand it's blowing up for some people. We don't take any of those on. So, and a lot of the websites where they have, it's a one SKU kind of we sell one thing, and it's very niche. You may be able to generate a couple of sales here and there, but you're not going to blow the doors off somebody that has a huge volume. The more institutional information we can get from a program regarding conversion rates and AOVs and average order values and those kinds of things to run some modeling ahead of time, that does help, but it's not a predictor all the time.
Yeah, well, it's a common thread through all my interviews. The more transparency you can have with your affiliate partners, the more likely the success is. So can you talk to me about some of your guys' successes?
Yeah, I mean, over the years there've been some interesting successes. As I mentioned earlier with NDAs, I probably can't tell you who, um,
Yeah, that's fine.
but I can give you a couple of examples that I thought were really
Yeah.
unique in terms of ways that we can work within their existing program. If you think your listeners will find that interesting.
I think that would be fantastic, and I totally understand the NDA thing. All of our case studies start with an advertiser in the beauty and skincare vertical. So totally get that. I think our audience will too.
So when you laid this out for me, I thought of three specific examples that I would share with you. So I'll try not to drone on, but I think they're really interesting because it paints a picture. I had one program, sort of an online community, online game kind of a program, and we were talking, and they said typical. We need to protect our brand. I said, of course you need to protect your brand, but remember, I'm paying for the ad, so I want to write ad copy that's at least as good as yours. I'm not going to write crappy ad copy and then pay for the ad myself. I'm not out to hurt you. I'm out to make money. And they said, oh, well, that makes sense. And they said, but our biggest markets, we're not willing to test it. And I said, okay. I said, well, let me know. And what about overseas? And the guy thought about it, and he said, yeah. He goes, we have a couple markets overseas where we have spent no money, but we think there's a market. And I think he gave us Belgium and some other little country. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that was where we started. 2 countries. It was like Belgium and Liechtenstein or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. And we geo-targeted our ad copy to those areas, and that's where we ran. And this program just shot out of the gate. And every couple of months, it'd be like, hey, can you guys add France? Yeah. Hey, can you guys add Spain? Yeah. Hey, can you guys add the UK? And so slowly we grew in the geography. So our ads were targeted in those specific countries, and that was it. And we geo-targeted out. At the end, we were in process of discussing moving it here to the US too, which was the biggest part of their program, because they started to see how we could do some incremental work. So that's a way where we could start small and grow. The second example I wanted to share with you is a hotel chain. And this isn't a destination, it's not like Vegas or Sandals. It's just, one of the regular hotel chains that's out there. And this guy had some really interesting insights into his program. And he knew that during the day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., his CPA was about 5%, which is pretty decent. Somehow or other, between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. overnight, his cost went up to 15%, whatever he was running. And so he thought, that just wasn't feasible for him. Plus, he was spreading his budget out across the whole day, and he was losing clicks early in the day at a low rate and paying for them overnight. So what he did is he set his campaigns to run from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. only. And he put all of his budget during that time frame. Then he brought us on board to run from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. just overnight. And he split the difference and paid us 8%. So he was saving 7% on those sales.
Yep.
And he was putting his budget into the early hours where he was getting them at 5%. That program blew up. I mean, it just took off like crazy, and they loved it. And that's
and you guys were able to hit your marks and be profitable on that 8%.
We were because he wasn't getting the same level of traffic he was getting on his own, but he was maximizing the traffic at 5%, and anything at 8% was incremental and still valuable to him from an ROI standpoint.
Hey, and this is one of the reasons I always enjoy working with IMWave or others. Is there's an urgency with making sure like you aren't going to run a campaign that's not profitable. So you're going to work, I think, harder to make sure that happens. And in this case, it's a clear example of that.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's our money, and we have benchmarks and thresholds and targets, and they don't all work. I'm giving you 3 successes here. I could probably come up with just as easy 3 failures, but let's be positive and talk about successes.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's figuring out what it's almost more important to figure out quickly what doesn't work than what does work.
Yeah.
And so we struggle with that. And the last example I'll give you was an airline, sort of a regionally focused, national flights, right, but regional focus. And
Mm-hmm.
the limited budget for search that they had, they focused on 5 states. 5 states probably accounted for better than 80% of their bookings. And so that's where they put all their money. But there's still 45 other states, and there are still flights that and routes that they ran and they flew that there were no efforts being put into place. And so we ran a state by state campaign excluding the 5 that they were focused on. And so we could pick up, okay, do they have a route from Chicago to where? Do they have a route from Salt Lake City to where? And we were able
Yeah.
to target people in Salt Lake and people in Chicago that they weren't hitting, and trying to get them on some of these routes where they weren't targeted. As they grew, they would add states to their mix and pull them out of our mix, which again is fine. It's about collaboration. We're not upset that happened. That's the natural progression of things. As they grew to 7 states, then we dropped down to 43 states. But we
Yeah.
were able to do that for them. So that it's kind of it's 3 examples. It's an example of targeting international, starting small and getting
Yeah.
big. It's an example of day parting for success, and it's an example of geo targeting for success. So
Yeah.
it's
And those are great examples. I wrote it down like entry into new markets, so geo targeting, and then day parting, definitely doing that, and then the last one with the airlines could also relate to just the time that your team has, whether it's the agency or in house, to focus on all these different states. So you kind of hit all the different ways that you guys can help. That they're fantastic examples, and I'm not surprised.
yeah. One of the other ones that was working with a program, it never really took off. Change of management, and all those sorts of things that happen, and then you don't have a contact anymore. But they were focused on doing search in and around their brick and mortar stores,
Hmm.
under the impression that people were going to potentially buy things online, but more often than not come into the store. And I said, but you're trying to grow your online sales too, right? And they said, well, yeah. And I said, well, then you should limit your search to where your physical locations are, because those people probably already know about you. And so you don't need a new branded search, because they already know you. But if a state where they don't know you, but they're looking for products that you sell, and you have a compelling price point, don't you want to be in front of them? Shouldn't we be running search in the middle of? They had no stores in, I think it was Iowa,
Hmm.
Midwest somewhere. I said, but those people buy your stuff. They just don't buy it from you because you don't have a store, but you have a compelling don't you want them to be exposed to you to buy it online and have it shipped? We got very close, and then she changed jobs. So
Yeah, and that's definitely one thing to look at. Store locations. We have a company that is primarily in the Northeast with their stores, but they sell a lot of stuff nationwide because of their affiliate program and partners like you guys. Now, Tony, so much has changed in 2020. How has Trademark Plus changed in 2020 and with the pandemic?
well, Trademark Plus in general has been an interesting topic over the last, I'd say, 5 years or so. Uh, it it sort of it meant something different 6 years ago than it does now. And what it started to mean now is, you know, brand plus coupon, brand plus promo, and this notion of taking up position 2 or position 3 with an affiliate. So it's your link plus then coupon, coupon, coupon. I won't get into the discussion of the value of a TM plus. I'll simply say that IMWave does not operate in that TM plus space, and that's been a common misconception. about us for all of our 15 years, that we want to bid on brand terms, we want to bid on brand plus coupon terms, and it's just not how we operate. We're looking, if you have any kind of comprehensive search program, you're bidding on your own brand terms already, and you're bidding on brand plus promo if those convert. We're looking for the space where you don't have any search campaign. So, I think people are starting to pull back a little bit from what I'm hearing in the marketplace. People are starting to pull back a little on the TM plus. Um, you know, you're paying commission and a coupon, so you're really getting a discounted sale in some of those places. Um, but at the same time, people are really trying to maximize exposure. So I can't speak to how those guys are doing. What I can tell you is that it's not a category, it's not a vertical, it's not a place where IMWave operates. We're not looking at your brand plus coupon or your brand plus promo, or your brand plus discount. We're really looking at what terms are people out there, what products, what search terms are they putting in to find the products that you sell, and how do we deliver them to your site.
And that probably goes back to our the misconception discussion we had earlier. Is probably a big one is when they hear search. That's the first thing they think of in the affiliate channel is Trademark Plus.
I've had 30-minute conference calls explaining how we don't do TM plus, and then at the very closing comments, the affiliate manager will say, okay, well, let me check in with them and see how they feel about TM plus, and we'll get back to you.
Oh no.
And so it's really become this, it's really taken on a life of its own, this whole TM plus conversation, and people start to not hear what the opportunities are. And search has, as you said, search, that's the first thing I think of. Well, we don't allow bidding on our brand terms. Well, that's okay. I don't want to bid on your brand terms. That's my response. We don't allow TM plus. That's okay. I don't want to bid TM plus. Oh, and then that sort of changes the script, flips the script, and lets us have the real conversation, which is how can we bring you incremental sales, which is really what it all comes down to.
Yeah, and that's a really big distinction. So if I said IMWave doesn't do Trademark Plus, they find the areas that you're not focusing on or not able to do profitably, whether that's time of day, new markets, whether you don't have the resources to put time into that, and they help you find incremental sales in those areas that do not include Trademark Plus.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And we focus away from the head terms. Now, some programs, frankly, they ask us to do stuff like that because they don't have a comprehensive program. If you're spending high six figures on search, there's a lot less area for IMWave to work in than if you're spending $2,000 a month in search. And so that here again, this is why I don't have a deck. People say, "Can you send me your deck?" Well, no, because what I do for you is going to be very different than what I do from the next guy, and very different from what I do for the guy after that. I need to understand your program, and I need to understand what capabilities you have, and then I can tell you specifically how I can fit into that program. And that's why it's important for us to get on and have these conversations with people.
Yeah, definitely. And that is something that, one of the things that we always tell people about the affiliate channel is it's a channel where you can augment your spend and sometimes, augment it considerably and not have that budget outlay because you're paying for it after the sale. You don't have to get a budget approval for another $5,000 in ad spend in AdWords. You can work with a partner and augment that, allow them to do it with a budget and a budget structure that's already been approved. So you can, if you only have $2,000 a month budget, it's probably not going to be enough to get all the market share that you have available. But IMWave can step in, augment that budget, make it much bigger, and still hit those goals without the Trademark Plus stuff.
Exactly. And if we can, we'll do it. And if we can't, we'll tell you we can't.
Awesome. Well, Tony, thank you so much. We're a little over our time, so I apologize for that. If any of our listeners want to get a hold of you, IMWave, to talk about what you guys can do, what's the best way for them to do that?
The easiest thing to do is reach out via email, Tony, Tony, at imwave.com. We can start the conversation at that point. We can set up a call if need be, discuss their needs, what their program looks like, and figure out if it's going to be a fit or not. But it always starts with the conversation. This is technology aside, this is very much a people business.
Always has been. I think it always will be. All right. Well, Tony, thank you so much. Really enjoyed every conversation we had, ever have. And really this one today, I think our audience can learn a lot about what you guys do, this type of affiliate relationship, and, some of the things they can do to make their affiliate program successful. So I really appreciate you taking time out today. And for our listeners, check our show notes that will have all the information to get a hold of Tony and the team at IMWave. So thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me on. And as always, it's a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And just thanks so much for including me.
Yeah. And good luck with your decision on the school board next year. And again, thank you for serving in that capacity in that thankless and difficult, tumultuous job.
Much appreciated.
Well, there you have it. Trademark Plus isn't what they do. And hopefully with this episode, you really could get a feel for the difference between a Trademark Plus affiliate and a search agency that operates through the affiliate channel and on the affiliate model. A huge distinction, and hopefully you're able to pick up on that. So Tony, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Here are some of the things that I pulled from that. There are, in the successes that Tony shared, and for my listeners, I want you to really pull these out. You can use a search agency, IMWave, others like it, to enter new markets, to test out. You can use that and not be with such a heavy investment in budget in those areas, as they use geo-targeting in their search campaign to just target those markets that you're looking to move into or haven't moved into with your search program. And then we look at day parting. How many of us are out of budget by 8 o'clock at night? Well, people are still buying in a lot of different ways for a lot of different products. So that example showed us that you can work with a partner like this, work with IMWave, and give them certain times to work together. And then the airlines example, that geo-targeting the effort in the places that they just weren't spending time on, that really gets to everyone has a limit on the resources they can put into anything, including budget, including time and people. And if you don't have that to hit every possible avenue of customer acquisition, then this can be a really profitable channel for you and a really profitable relationship. So we talked a lot about the misconceptions, and that big one there at the end of what is Trademark Plus and how are they different is a big one. But if you want to reach out to Tony and see if it's a right fit for you and talk about things like, is there opportunity? How does this not cannibalize search? I definitely highly recommend Tony and his team. And if you're worried about this cannibalizing search, you're worried about your search team getting up in arms about working with a partner like this, know that Tony and his team will have a conversation with each of those. And after a conversation, I think everybody will feel a lot better. This is a cooperative relationship, and we've done it many times with them in the past, and highly recommend this. So you can actually reach out to Tony at tony@imwave.com. We will include that in the show notes. So again, Tony, thank you for joining. And also just want to share with you, if you go to jebco.de/strategy, that's jebco.de/strategy, you'll get access to our affiliate program strategy roadmap service. And you can see if that's a right fit for you. So if you're trying to figure out what is the right overarching strategy for my affiliate channel to produce incremental sales, revenue growth, grab market share in a time we're in right now, which is very fluid and lots changes every single week. then you'll definitely want to take advantage of this service. So if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you give us a positive review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And definitely, if you found value in this, please share this in your socials or send it to someone that you think would benefit from today's discussion. But again, I'm Jamie Birch, your host, founder and CEO of JEB Commerce, your award-winning affiliate management agency. Thank you for listening today, and a special shout out to Shane and Katie at JEB Commerce for helping me make this podcast possible. I could not do it without you guys.